Hello, highly sensitive person, and welcome to this week's episode of the Highly Sensitive Club. I noticed a trend with my highly sensitive people this past week, and it's this all or nothing, either or, pass fail thinking that we have inherited from being straight A students or maybe straight B plus students that is keeping us from growing and moving forward. Today's topic is how to know that your progress is working. This is all the ways that you are moving towards your goal and all the ways that you can tell it's working even when you haven't reached it yet. This is really important for you, highly sensitive person, because I know that you really want that goal or that dream or that vision that you are working towards. You are a growth-minded person, you are a self-development junkie, and you have really high standards for how things should be, which is not a bad thing because it means that you care a lot. You want things to be of a very high quality and a very high standard. Sometimes you might be using that against yourself. I know this from experience because I have also used my high sensitivity against myself, which is why I know that this episode is going to be so valuable for you. In our student and even traditional employment environments and experiences, we learned that there was a right answer to things, that you don't get partial credit in most cases, and that you only get the accolades or the achievement or the accomplishment after something is complete. We learned very early that all of the steps along the way don't count because they're not acknowledged, they're not celebrated, and until you finally reach that goal or get the A or cross the finish line, nothing before that counts. This is very unfortunate, especially for us highly sensitive people, because when you celebrate each step of the way, you actually make progress faster. I have a recent episode about this called Celebrating Wins as part of a 3-step process for how to get unstuck. Celebrating your wins each step of the way is one of the best ways to measure your progress. It's a skill that you can learn as an adult, and it is something that you can incorporate and integrate into your life so that you can teach other people to do it too. We are taught that until you have completed something, it does not count as a win. You are not making progress. This creates this dichotomy in our highly sensitive brains where we constantly move the goalposts on ourselves. We constantly move the goalposts on ourselves. We don't take the time in the beginning to determine what complete is. We have this vague, nebulous idea of what the ideal situation would be without actually taking time to talk through it, think through it, process, and define what complete is, let alone what enough could be. 80% of the way for you as a highly sensitive person is probably someone else's 100%. If 80% can be your enough and you can establish that baseline, 90% is even better, and that 100% would be amazing, but you don't have to get there in order to have that sense of enoughness. You have accomplished what you set out to accomplish, and anything on top of that is bonus. We get ourselves caught in these loops where we make everything before the completion of the project not count. We discount every step along the way before we reach the project, which builds our stress, it builds our resistance, it makes us doubt our abilities, and contributes to imposter syndrome along the way. It's also one of the reasons that when you actually hit a goal, or you do create that project, or you do have that hard conversation, you're still discounting it in your head, because the way that you get somewhere is the way that you'll be there as well. It's like that phrase, wherever you go, there you are. However you've reached the goal is also how you're going to be when you get there. If you have rushed every step of the way, if you have discounted every step, if you have gotten down on yourself, if you have beaten yourself up internally for being too slow, not completing things to the expectations you had, for making promises that may not have been realistic and then not following through at the appropriate time, if you have felt like you have to catch up because you're somehow behind on a project or on the timeline that you set for yourself, then by the time you actually reach that goal, it's going to feel really anticlimactic. You're going to be so relieved that it's over that you're probably not going to enjoy the accomplishment anyway. When you slow down and enjoy the process every step of the way, you celebrate as you go, you measure your progress and you start to see the acceleration of your goals every single moment. When you see them every moment, when you actually reach the goal, you can own it. You can soak it in. You can claim it so that it does mean something to you. And it's not just another achievement or another checkbox for you to mark off and move on. You actually take a moment to acknowledge what you've done and to celebrate it. Acknowledging and celebrating our accomplishments is one of the challenges that most highly sensitive people have. We have taught ourselves and been taught we need to always be productive, that taking a moment to celebrate our wins feels like a luxury. It feels like a waste of time, but it's not. Because the more we acknowledge our goals and dreams coming to life, the more likely we are to be able to make something like that happen again in the future. I have a few examples from clients that I want to share that I think would be perfect examples for you to be able to see how this feels in process. The first one is my client who has been working on self-trust. When we started working together, she scored herself at a 2 self-trust. After 3 months, she now scores herself at an 8 or a 9, and she continues to work towards that 10 because she's practicing following through for herself. Building trust in herself means that she knows when she says she's going to do something, she will. When she wants something, she believes that she can figure out how to make it happen, even if she doesn't know how to do that immediately. And she knows that she has all the skills and qualities she needs in order to make her goals and her dreams happen, even if there are setbacks along the way. That's what self-trust means for this particular client. And every single session, we scaled on a scale of 1 to 10, how much she trusted herself from the beginning of the session to the end of the session. From week to week, every time we scaled her self-trust, it would usually go up 1 or 2 points. Sometimes it would even jump 3 to 4 points from where it started, based on the thoughts that we were working through and the new beliefs that she had about herself at the end of the session. In our first sessions, if she started at a 2 or a 3, she would have ended the session at a 4. It's normal to fall back into old thoughts, old beliefs, and old patterns. Just because you reach a 10 at the end of one session and you come to another session at a 5 or a 6 doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It doesn't mean that the process isn't working. It means that you left the session with a high level of whatever goal you're going for, like self-trust. And then through the course of your day, your old thoughts, your old beliefs, your old rules started to come back in. This is a normal part of a growth process. Think about when you've tried to make dietary lifestyle changes, or when you've tried to start exercising. When a relationship has changed, maybe you went from talking to someone all the time, there starts to become more conflict, the relationship ends, and you've had to detach yourself. During that process, though, you still go back to the old way of eating. You still think about the person that you're no longer in that relationship with, whether that's a friendship or a romantic relationship, maybe even a coworker if you've changed jobs. When you think about that old version of you versus this new version of you, it's very normal for your brain to go back and forth. And putting yourself in this all or nothing pass-fail camp means that anytime you go back to this old version, you have automatically failed. When you've automatically failed, your brain will probably tell you something like, well, it's too late now. We might as well quit trying. We've already failed. What's the point? We've wasted all that time. It's going to be twice as hard now to get back into things because we went back to this old way of being. I give up. I don't care. That is one of my favorite things to think when I'm feeling resistant, I'm feeling tired, and I just don't want to argue and be my new self. When I am frustrated, I've had a long day, and I just want to go back and be my previous version. I don't care. I'm flipping the table internally. I'm throwing a tantrum. I imagine you have also had this experience too, my highly sensitive friend, because that's one that we love to pass around as adults. I just don't care. I don't care right now. I want to go back to the old way of doing it because that's what I'm used to and that's what feels comfortable. When you make that mean that going back to this old version means that you have failed and all of the progress that you've made up until that point is now erased and you're starting from square one, that is how you keep yourself stuck in the cycle. Think about my client who's working on self-trust. Anytime she fell back into a lower rating on her self-trust scale, she would come into the session knowing that she was going to feel better on the other side, that that number was going to increase. When you look at the overall rating over time of how you progress from not trusting yourself to trusting yourself, or not having confidence to having confidence, not feeling comfortable making decisions to feeling very comfortable making decisions, it is normal to balance between your old self and your new self until your new self becomes the default. It takes effort. You have to be conscious of it, but tracking your progress every step of the way helps you become conscious of that process so that you don't make it mean anything when your old version creeps back in. It's okay. You can still move back into your new version. This is a normal part of the process. I think about two of my other clients, both of whom are growing new businesses and figuring out how they want to show up to those businesses. I love talking about business. I've been studying it since I started my organizing business 8 years ago, and helping people figure out how they want to navigate their personal business makes me so happy. It is one of my favorite things to brainstorm and talk about. There's a lot of things that you try when you're an entrepreneur or a small business person that don't work out in the beginning. It's totally normal for things not to go the way that you expected them to go. In fact, it is more normal for things not to go the way that you expect them to go than it is for things to go the way that you expect them to go, especially in business and entrepreneurship, where there are millions of books on the subject, probably billions of hours of viewing that you can find on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. You could never consume all the information there is to know about how to do business. Whatever that looks like for you, there is no map. You build it as you go. You have to pick and choose what you like to build your business for your personality, especially as a highly sensitive person. Every time these clients come back to a session and they say, I tried this and it didn't work, they could either tell themselves, that was a waste of time. I should never have tried that. I can't believe I thought that was going to be a good idea. Or they can tell themselves, I learned something valuable from that lesson. I wouldn't know that that doesn't work unless I tried it. Now that I know this part doesn't work, I can try the next thing. Every time you fail, you learn something from it. You come back over time, you start to see your progress along the way. You start to see how in the beginning, it feels really scary to talk to people about your business. Over time, it becomes easier and easier. And suddenly you just talk about it like it's the weather. You don't feel comfortable knowing what to say. But over time, suddenly you know exactly what to say to whoever you're talking to, and it feels completely natural. I know that your brilliant mind wants to latch onto all of the information. It wants to have data to process. It wants to have details that it can chew on to make it feel safe that it is making progress. You don't always have those tangible results, while the intangible results are very apparent. There are 3 areas that I want you to focus on when you're thinking about your progress over time. How do they feel internally, and what kind of results are you getting that you can actually track over time? For all of you intuitive, highly sensitive people, this episode is 100% for you. The first one is, how are you emotionally feeling? Has the way that you feel regularly changed over time? This is one of those instances where you can scale your level of stress. You can scale your level of focus. You can scale your capability, your satisfaction, peace. Can you create some awareness every single day that helps you see, am I actually getting more stressed over time, or am I getting less stressed over time? Am I building my focus from day to day in an anecdotal sense? Is my focus staying about the same, or has my focus actually decreased? I was having a conversation recently with a wonderful counselor here in Ohio, and we were talking about the fact that though neither one of us has ADHD, we both have a noticeable increase in the distractions that we have in our daily life and a noticeable decrease in the focus that we bring to each task in our lives. And we both know what it is. It's our phones. Having screens near us and having that instant dopamine hit from our devices near us has made us start to mimic ADHD when we don't have it. We're just highly sensitive people who have lost the habit of focusing for long periods of time and keeping ourselves away from distractions. And we have picked up the habit of picking up our phones regularly and letting ourselves be distracted or letting ourselves avoid doing the work that we really want to do. Over time, you can tell from day to day, have I been picking up my phone as much or have I not been picking up my phone as much? I will also put into the show notes my episode about how to lower your external stimulation, how to cut distractions from your life, because the phone is definitely one of the biggest ones for highly sensitive people, especially if you have high sensitivity and you also have ADHD. Take a guess from day to day whether the thing you're working on has actually increased, stayed the same, or decreased like you would like. Have you been making other choices? And again, this goes back to your feelings and your emotions. Just take a guess, thinking back to the last few days or even at the end of the day, looking back on your day. Did you make more choices aligned with what you want, or did you continue to do the same thing? Maybe you want to be less reactionary when you have conflict in your life, which a couple of my clients are working on. At the end of the day, were you able to pause before you reacted and said something that you may not have meant? At the end of the day, did you choose whether you wanted to engage in the conversation by default or whether you wanted to take a break and come back to it later? How many choices did you actively make during the day, no matter what you're working on, whether that's focus, productivity, relationships, health, time, no matter what it is? How many choices did you actively make that were different than your established habits throughout the day? This is just an internal check that you can do throughout the day or at the end of the day or even at the end of the week that can help you track that progress over time. Another thing that does count is, did you create more awareness? Did you catch yourself in the moment or did you catch yourself after the moment? The quicker you can catch yourself and create that awareness when you're doing a habit you want to change, like being reactive, like eating food you don't want to eat anymore, like avoiding the tasks that you know you want to be doing, the more progress you are making. Changing your brain takes time. This is actually a beautiful thing because we want our brain to be slow to change. Our brain is the epicenter of our entire bodies. It's the thing that keeps us alive. You don't want your brain to be so malleable that it can just take on any random thing and suddenly it's a completely different brain. We like that our brain is slow. We like that it takes time. And we like every time we have that awareness in the moment and we can catch our brains before it does that old habit, before we say something we don't mean, before we put ice cream in our mouths when we tell ourselves we're not going to today. You can do exactly what I do, which is say, I'm on to you, brain. I see you. I see what you're doing. I have awareness and I can choose in this moment whether I'm going to do the old version or whether I'm going to choose my new version. I'm on to you. I know what you're doing. I love you. I think you're a wonderful brain. And I also get to make a different choice. This is the first intangible category that you can check to see, am I noticing progress over time? What is your internal experience when you look back at the end of the day? The second thing, of course, is your thoughts. Do you notice yourself thinking the same thoughts or new ones? Whether this is your first podcast episode with me or whether this is your 80th podcast episode with me, you know that thoughts and beliefs are the core of what I teach and what I teach my clients to change, because you can take actions all day long, but it's your thoughts and your rules and your beliefs that will actually change the results of what you're creating, not just the actions themselves. Actions are just tools that you take, but by powering them with the correct intention and something that feels deliberate for you, you can create completely different results with the same actions. That's why thoughts are so powerful, because you can take the exact same actions with different thoughts and create different results. It is incredible. I see it every day. I do it on myself. I do it with clients and teach them how to do it as well. I actually have a client who says she should tattoo the thought technique that we use on her arm so that she never forgets it, which cracks me up every time. It really is that powerful. A lot of the thoughts that you might be thinking right now are discounting thoughts that make you feel hopeless, ashamed, embarrassed, discouraged, doubtful, sad, guilty, frustrated, or any number of other emotions that are holding you back unintentionally. These are thoughts like, well, all of that went to waste. That doesn't count. I've ruined my entire week. Now I have to start all over. Now I have to start from scratch. I might as well have not started at all. Now I am farther away from where I want to be, not closer. Nothing I'm doing is working. See that all or nothing, either or thinking, where you're on two extremes of the spectrum and you're not seeing anything that's happening in between. I want to help you go from the end of the spectrum where nothing counts to the side of the spectrum where you see progress in every little thing and that builds over time. I know it seems like you're just fooling yourself. It's magical thinking to track all of these little progress along the way and say that they count for something. And they don't count as completion, but they do count as progress. Just because something isn't complete doesn't mean it doesn't count as progress. Progress is how you get to the complete goal or dream or vision. You have to have the progress along the way in order to get to the completion. Some thoughts that can help you move on that direction on the spectrum from this isn't working, I wasted all my time, I'm starting from scratch, I can't believe I did that, it never works, to this is amazing, it is working, and my completion and my goal is inevitable. There are lots of thoughts in between that you can try on and play around with. They help open you up to new possibility. I want you to pay attention to how these feel in your body. How does it feel when you think, I wasted all that time, I can't believe I'm doing this again, forget it, I'm just going to do the thing that I want and I'll figure it out tomorrow? How do you feel in your body? What's the tone of voice that you hear in your head or that you're saying to yourself out loud or even saying to other people? What's the energy of those thoughts in your body? And then what do you want to do? Usually when you think those thoughts, you fall back into old patterns. You do things that you know you don't want to do, but that are familiar to you and comfortable to you. You avoid doing the actions that you want to do when you think those thoughts. Now see how these types of thoughts feel. These are the intermediary bridge or ladder thoughts that help you get from one thing to the next thing. I'm learning to do things a different way. I'm learning. I'm figuring it out. Maybe I can make big shifts a little at a time. It's possible for me to change the way I do this and to change permanently. It's possible. That might be a stretch to say I can change the way I do things permanently, but maybe you can just crack that door open a little bit by saying it's possible that I could change the way I do things permanently. It's possible for me to shed this old habit for good. It's not just possible for other people. It's not just people who are sharing their highlights reels on social media. This could be possible for me to get rid of this old habit for good. It's possible for me to build my new habit and to stick to that one for good. It's possible for me to build a different dietary lifestyle than what I've had before. It's possible for me to completely change the way that I interact with my loved ones. It's possible for me to have better, more connecting relationships where we share mutual vulnerability and respect and love with each other. It's possible, no matter how many years we have in our relationship, for us to try things and do things differently starting right now. That's possible. I'm open to the idea that I'm becoming a new version of myself. I'm open to the idea that I can become my next version. That version of me that I want so badly, I'm open to the idea that maybe I could have it. Maybe. I'm willing to try that on. I'm a little skeptical. I've got my skepticals on, but I'm willing to try that. You might also think it is possible to become better at whatever it is I'm trying to do. It's possible to become better at making decisions. It's possible to become better at emotionally regulating my nervous system. It's possible to become better at taking action even when I'm scared. It's possible to become better at processing emotions, at processing things without having to pull everyone around me. It's possible. It's possible. It's possible. Just live in that energy of possibility. You're not saying it's inevitable. You're not saying it's a done deal yet. You're not saying that you're entitled to anything. You're just letting yourself play pretend. As highly sensitive people, our imaginations are so creative and vivid and interesting. I know you might be trying to keep yourself realistic. You might be telling yourself that even entertaining the idea of possibility is being immature or childish, and what is the point of even exploring something that seems so far away? And the point is that your imagination is the seed that you plant in order to make those things happen in your life. Anything that you have made happen in your life up to this point that you really enjoy started with your imagination. Maybe you met someone and they sparked your curiosity and you thought, I could see that person being in my life, maybe for a really long time, maybe in a particular way, whether that's a romantic partner or a friend. Maybe it's even the idea that you want to have kids or you want to have a different kind of family. Whatever that looks like for you, the seed that you plant when you first meet that person is the one that grows into the relationship that you have right now. Whatever your current occupation is, whether that's being home and taking care of loved ones, whether that's being home and taking care of yourself, or whether you are in a paid position somewhere or an entrepreneur like me, whatever that looks like, you planted a seed with your imagination in the past that created what you have right now. That possibility that you could get that job, that you could make that money, that you could stay home and have this delicious life, that started as an imagination seed that you planted in the past that got here. So before you do the same thing with these possibility thoughts and tell yourself they're a waste of time, why would I even put energy into something that's not going to happen? What if it's not possible for me? What if I can't figure it out even though all these other people can? It's just imagination. Imagination is free. Belief is free. Pretending is free. So why not let yourself pretend a little bit? It doesn't mean that you're committing to anything. It doesn't mean that you're saying that's the reality. It's that you're just playing in your own imagination and saying, what if it is possible I could lose 40 pounds and keep it off for good? What if it is possible I could travel to every continent on the planet? What if that's possible? Think about how that feels in your body. Think about if that takes you back to a previous version of yourself. Because I don't know about you, but when I say those things, I feel like a younger version of myself. I feel like a childhood version who had limitless possibilities, who was willing to use my imagination purely for the joy of using it. Not because I had to prove it to anyone else, not because it was the right thing to do or I could turn it into something productive, but because it was just really fun. Tapping into that childhood part of myself makes me so excited. And maybe that's the part that you feel in your possibility self as well. When you've played with these latter thoughts, whether it's possible, I'm open to the idea of, maybe, I can, I'm learning, fill in the thought that you're trying on for the first time with those sentence stems. Once you've practiced those for a while, you start to notice this shift that happens internally. You think those thoughts enough, you start to just live in the realm of possibility, which is an incredible place to live, by the way. And instead of visiting it, you take up permanent residence in the realm of possibility. You still have challenges. You still have obstacles that you have to overcome. You still have to pay the bills. You still have to take care of your home. You still have to interact with people, even when you don't always want to. But that doesn't mean that you can't show up to all of those contexts and all of those experiences with this spirit of possibility. And you just live there. You go there whenever you want to, and you bring it into every situation you have. And when you live in possibility frequently, that's when you start to believe that things can and do happen, because they do. This is when you might be open to thoughts that are on the other side of the spectrum, where you see progress every step of the way, you can celebrate what you have accomplished, and you can be grateful and acknowledge what you have and what you've done and who you're being, while looking out into the future at additional things that you want to expand your life. These thoughts might sound something like, I have everything I need within me already to make that goal happen. I know who to be, therefore I know what to do. This is a big one. I'm going to say this again. I know who to be, therefore I know what to do. I know the version of me who gets the thing that I want, and I know what actions they're going to take to get there. Even if I don't know every single step along the way, I can take a guess and I can move step by step. Think about that thought for a second. How does that feel in your body? You might be feeling some confusion right now because you're just not at that point yet, but I want to share it with you so that you have it in the back of your mind and something back there percolates when you set this intention that you actually know who to become to get the thing that you want. And as that person, you will know exactly what to do to get there every step of the way. You might not have the whole path or the whole map, but you do know the steps to get there and you can try it out as you go. Another thought might be, I trust myself to figure out how to move forward. This goes back to my client who was building self-trust. You don't know every single step along the way until after you've tried it, usually, whether it works or not. So you can tell yourself, I trust myself to figure out how to move forward through mistakes, through obstacles, and when the work is working. I trust myself to figure it out. I'm fantastic at making decisions. This is one that I have had to play with for years, highly sensitive person. I have gone back into an old version who identifies as indecisive. I have played around with this new version who's very decisive and very discerning. And it brings me so much joy to say now, I'm fantastic at making decisions. Typically, once I make the decision, I feel so good about myself by just making it. As highly sensitive people, processing lots of information, lots of input, and feeling like there's a right answer or an optimal answer or a best answer, decisions can be really difficult for us. A lot of us pick up habits or we fall into patterns where other people make a lot of decisions for us, or we go along with other people's decisions, or we go along with habits or previous decisions that we've made instead of making fresh ones now, because it just feels easier. Think about the possibility that you're really great at making decisions and you can make them all the time, that you don't have to rely on anyone else in order to make those decisions and make really great decisions for yourself. I make decisions in my highest good all the time. I really love that phrase, in my highest good, because it speaks to whatever you want it to mean, but we all have a sense that that is your wisest, truest self. Maybe you try on this thought, I make decisions in my highest good all the time, every day, every moment. Being who I want to be is available to me at any moment. This is a thought I have been actively thinking every day for the last week because I've noticed this trend where I will come up with a goal or something that I want to change or something that I want to try. I immediately put that version of me far into the future and it feels far away. It feels like a distant version of me and that I'm going to have to do something or have something in order to be that version of myself. This is just old victim mentality, that until you have something a certain way or you do something a certain way, you can't be the person you want to be and you can't experience things that you want to experience. You actually have access to create any emotion that you want, any feeling that you want, and to step into any version of you that you want at any time. I was thinking back to a version of me from 10 years ago. I actually interact with younger versions of myself all the time through IFS, which is internal family systems. I talk to my 15-year-old self or my 21-year-old self. And when I think back to that time in my life, and I think about where I was then and where I am now, I do a little bit of internal time travel because those constructs of my younger self inside of my brain get to interact with the version of me I have now, who has done so many things that they had no concept that I could do. They didn't know that I could go into therapy and completely change my people-pleasing tendencies and make decisions, set good boundaries, approach conflict from a growth mindset instead of complete terror and panic. And they also didn't know that I could become polyamorous and have multiple romantic partners, or build friendships that I hope to have for the rest of my life that feel authentic and real, or that I could even have different kinds of friendship. Because at that time in my life, I thought everyone's your best friend or they're not your friend at all. At those times in my life, at those ages, I didn't know that I was going to become a coach. I didn't know that I could get paid to have conversations in which I show other people how to live better lives and how to tap into their own inner resources. I believe we all have power and we just don't know how to access it. So being the person who helps other people figure out how to access their own power, my 15 and 21-year-old selves had no idea that was available. That was a pipe dream. They were like, I really like to talk to people and I like to help them. And I seem to be like kind of intuitive and like I can listen to people and I sort of know what's going on, but then I have to fix them or I have to rescue them or I have to tell them what to do. Like, how can I even have conversations with people and get paid to help them change and become more powerful? That wasn't even on my radar. I had no idea at those ages that I could become an entrepreneur, that I could figure out how to live by myself, that I could figure out budgeting for the first time in my 20s because I had no idea how to budget until I had to pay my own bills. I'm actually teaching friends and loved ones in their 40s and 50s and 60s my basic budgeting plan because they didn't know how to budget and how to handle that money because a partner handled it or because someone else in their lives handled all of the finances and it worked for them up until this point. It worked for me too until I lived by myself. I didn't know that I would start 2 businesses. I didn't know that I would have dozens and then hundreds and then soon to be thousands of clients and people that I get to help. I didn't know that I would change the composition of my body simply with my diet by trying different nutritional plans over the last 10 years. I didn't know that I would learn how to ballroom dance. I didn't know that I would take up yoga. I didn't know that I would become a spiritual person who is into oracle cards and tarot cards and who goes to pendulum workshops with the local magic practitioner, who is fantastic, by the way. Or that I would start doing readings for my loved ones and doing card pulls for them to help them have some wisdom from the universe. I did not know that I would become such a woo-woo person who interfaces with the universe in this like spiritual, playful way that I have developed over time. Younger versions of me did not know that that was available to me. Yet, when I look back to those things, there are still things that I do that my 15-year-old self did, that my 21-year-old self did. I still love to read novels. I love fantasy. I love sci-fi. I actually really mysteries now, which I didn't at the time. I still play video games. I still love a great TV show that hooks me and gets me invested in the characters. I still love going to the theater once a week and watching a great movie on the big screen. I still love to drive. I loved driving from the time I was 15 and got my learner's permit, and I have loved to drive every minute since then, to the point that I even picked up a side gig as a delivery driver for a while. I'm still that version of me who loves those things, who has those interests, who has that core version of me. I've just grown it and developed it over time. And the more I can access the next version of me that I want to feel right now, the easier it is for me to bridge that gap. The version of me who went from working 3 side gigs and coaching on the side is not that different from the version of me who's coaching full-time and mentoring for my coach training program. I'm sitting in the office where I came up with this dream in the first place. It's not that far away. So I want to offer that thought to you that you actually get to choose to be the next version of you at any time, even before the evidence has shown up. You get to be that person internally even before the external world matches that. The last thought I want you to try on is I can play in my next level right now. Again, imagination is free. Belief is free. Pretend and play and fun in your own head is free and it's safe. You get to try out what that next level would look like. You get to explore that in your own mind and in your own heart right now. You don't have to justify it to anyone. It doesn't have to be realistic. And it doesn't mean that you're going to fly off into the land of make-believe and stop taking care of your priorities and your responsibilities here. It just means that you're playing and you're trying on something new. And that is a really powerful feeling. Once you have thought about your internal experience, how does it feel? Are you creating more awareness? Are you building more choice? And what thoughts are you thinking regularly throughout the day? Then you start to see external evidence. This is not the quantifiable evidence of scales shifting or people saying exactly the thing that you want or reaching the money milestone. It's not that kind of evidence. This is the kind of evidence that you start to look for that lets you know that the progress is happening and the shifts are coming. This is the kind of thing where people start to comment on changes in your attitude or the way that you're showing up to things. Maybe they're even commenting on things before you notice them. Recently, I had someone tell me, "You are one of the most fun people I know." And I thought, what do you mean? I am constantly thinking about my business and my goals and productivity and the next thing. I don't feel like I have a lot of fun in my life right now. And this was a few months ago before I started really focusing my energy on soaking up fun and enjoying and being present to those experiences. That person saying, "You're one of the most fun people I know," was one of the first seeds that got planted in my subconscious to believe, maybe I do have a lot of fun. Maybe I do spend a lot of time with other people enjoying those experiences, and I just wasn't seeing them. Those are the kind of shifts that other people will reflect back to you, potentially before you even notice them yourself. People will start to get curious about what you're doing that's different. They'll start to say things like, "You're carrying yourself differently," or "Wow, you look really great today. Are you doing something different?" It's not that you're doing something different. It's that you're being different. That will start to show in the way that you carry yourself. It starts to show in the things that you say. It starts to show in what you do when you're around other people, and they will notice and they will reflect it back to you, and they will become curious about what you're doing and why it's so different. This is a sign that progress is happening, that people notice, "Oh, you do seem to be more calm. I do notice that you're getting less stressed about things. I'm really proud that you have taken more time for yourself because you said that was a goal for yourself." They will reflect it back to you when they see you doing it and being it. You'll start to notice coincidences and synchronicities. This is when a song pops on the radio that you were just thinking about, or that has the perfect lyrics for the situation that you are in right now. Maybe you're out and about in the world and you start to hear the same phrases over and over again. Maybe you get the same book recommendation from 2 or 3 different people who don't know each other, and all of a sudden the same title comes into your sphere at the same time. I have had this experience so many times with podcasts where I'm listening to episodes from different years, from different industries, from people who do not know each other, who are both offering the exact same book or the exact same movie or the exact same podcast. It is spooky. And then I go follow it. I go read the book or I watch the show. And there's always some kind of wisdom for me there. Maybe the right people and the right things start to show up now. You start to say things like, "Oh, I really want to find a good personal trainer." And because you've put it out into the world and the universe, people say, "Oh, I have a great personal trainer. Let me refer you to that. I really want to meet the right person who can help me grow my business." Or "I want to find more friends." I can't tell you how many highly sensitive people tell me, "I just really want to connect with people and I want to have more friends in my life. I feel really satisfied with my romantic partnerships. I enjoy my family. I like the people that I spend time with, but I just want some more friends in my life." Suddenly, when you put that out into the world and you change who you're being and what you're thinking and the internal experience you have, suddenly you show up to places where the right people might be. You get invited to things where you might meet the right people. The right people and the right things show up at the right time. This is a sign that it's working, that you are making progress. There is movement, even when you can't see other external signs that you might be looking for. Another external thing that might happen is you notice more opportunities to learn and grow that you hadn't seen before. This is when, again, that book title might come back that you've heard 1,000 times, and suddenly now is the right time for you to read it. Maybe you have a new course come across your feed or someone recommends it to you that is the right thing at the right time. We love to learn. We love to grow. Those opportunities will naturally start to manifest themselves when you're in the right space. This is a sign of progress. Another sign is you can see the differences and the subtleties between a no or a mistake or a failure, and that they're not all the same. A great example of this comes from my mentor, Stacey Bayman, who talks about the process of getting clients. This is so funny to me because the process of getting clients actually involves 7 steps where you get a no before you actually get a yes. But they are different versions of the no. In the first version, you offer to meet someone and they tell you no. In the second version, you offer to meet them, they say yes, then you offer to help them and they say no. The next version is you meet them, you offer to help them, they say yes, but then they don't come to the next conversation. That's another version of a no. You can see how this builds. Every time the person says yes and it turns into a no, you're getting closer to the yes. These are signs of progress. In health, this might look like the scale is not moving, but your stamina is better. You're not getting winded going up and down the stairs. Maybe your body starts to look different. I notice this every time I shift back into healthier eating. My body starts to shrink in on itself before the scale ever moves. Your body composition will move first before the numbers start to reflect that. This is another sign of progress. In relationships, there are tons of ways that you can see those external results without having anything quantifiable. This might be that you notice there's been a longer time in between arguments or conflict with your loved ones. Maybe you're noticing that there's more quality time, or you're building more quality time into your week. I started out with my fiance that we would have at least 1 date night a week. Now we make sure we've got 2 date nights. Usually one, we just relax and enjoy our time together. And another night we like to go out and have an adventure together. This could mean more positive communication. It could mean that when you do have conflict, you move through it faster and neither of you are saying the things that you don't mean in the moment that are brought about by intense emotions, but don't actually help you create connection or understanding or move through the process faster. Stressing less about what other people think of you and thinking more about what you think of yourself and how you want to show up, that's a sign of progress. More open communication, believing in positive intent in other people. The more frequently you notice that happening, the more progress you are making towards those relationship goals. Time is a theme that I have a lot in my life, and my clients bring it to our sessions too. Rather than saying, I'm going to rearrange all of my time, or I'm going to think further in advance, the progress is things like you hit your time limits more than you don't. This is when you say, I'm going to take 2 hours to clean the house, and it actually does take you 2 hours. Instead of, oh, I spent half an hour on it, then I got distracted, then I went for a walk, and then I texted someone, and so called, then I got back to the house, and it actually took me 4 hours by the time I was done. None of that. This means less distractions. Maybe you pick up your phone less. If you look at the stats on your phone, you will notice there's a counter on iPhone. When you swipe to the left, it will tell you how many times you picked up your phone throughout the day. This is a quantifiable external resource that you can use to see, am I still staying distracted by my device, or am I spending more time away doing my own thing? I know a lot of you are creative people. You love to do projects. You like to try new things. You like to explore stuff. I think of my creativity coming out in terms of this content and what I do for my business. Whatever it looks like for you in terms of creativity, maybe your signs of external progress are less time between working on your projects and maybe doing it more frequently. Maybe it's you being easier on yourself for not doing it perfectly the first time. The more often you can be kind to yourself and enjoy the process, that is a sign of progress. The more you can say something is done and it's enough, even if it doesn't match your exact vision, that might be a sign of progress. Letting people you feel safe with see your finished product, that might be part of your process of moving towards your creativity goal. With productivity, that one is coming up a lot with my clients. Maybe external signs of progress include your maintenance lasting longer and not having to reset and catch up on things as frequently. So if this is cleaning your home, maybe you don't have to do a big tidy up on Saturdays because you're maintaining more throughout the week by doing 20 to 30 minutes a day. Something like that. Maybe you get more done in less time. Your capacity has actually increased. Maybe it used to take you 45 minutes to make a particular meal, and over time, it suddenly takes you 30 minutes because you don't have to spend as much time chopping. You don't have to consult the recipe book. You have all of the ingredients in advance, so you've become better at prepping it. The faster things happen, that's actually a sign of progress, even if there's no completion on the other side. Maybe a sign of you changing your productivity is that you don't bring in as many things to your home and you don't take on as many projects. I see this a lot with my clients who are starting to see progress, that instead of just grabbing whatever seems interesting to them, they become more discerning about which projects are the right ones and which ones they want to say no to now. They start to become addicted to noticing their progress and moving towards the finish line. So many creatives and productive people keep moving the finish line, or they take on so many projects and so many tasks, and to-do lists become so long that it feels like it's never ending. You find that when you start paying attention to the external progress along the way, you actually get closer to the finish line and you get more excited about sticking with one thing for longer. It doesn't mean that you aren't interested in other things or that you don't bring in other projects as you go. It just means that you focus in one or two areas specifically until you get across the finish line. Then you bring in more projects. To recap, signs of progress that are not necessarily quantifiable results, but are qualitative results are your internal feelings and awareness. Are you making different choices? Do you notice a change in the unhelpful things you don't want to feel and an increase in the things you do want to feel and the things you do want to have happen? Are you more aware and are you making conscious choices more regularly? Pick the top 3 things that you want to work on and then rate them daily. That could be your stress, your joy, and your play. How do you rate each of those things at the beginning of the day and how do you rate them at the end of the day? That kind of awareness can create so much motivation for you to change the way that you're going about your day. The second thing is your thoughts. What are the majority of your thoughts? Are they helpful thoughts or are they unhelpful thoughts? Do they make you feel powerful, motivated, joyful, and excited? Or do they make you feel discouraged, hopeless, helpless, ashamed, fearful, guilty, any number of emotions that typically keep you stuck? When you think about your thoughts, where are you currently? How can you choose some more neutral or maybe possibility thoughts? What are your goal thoughts on the other side? And the last thing is external sources of progress that are not quantitative, but qualitative. This means they are not numbers, but they are things that you can notice and measure over time. That's other people's reflections of you. That's synchronicities and things popping up at the right time or the right place. And noticing the subtleties between your failures or your mistakes and being able to say, am I moving in the right direction or are these still the same things? How can I learn from these experiences? I'm not saying that you need to pick all of these kinds of progress and look out for each one of them every single day. But pick up one or two of these things that really stuck out to you and seem easy and doable for you. And then start to incorporate them into your day. Start to look for those signs of progress, either internally or externally, and track them over time, even if it's just jotting down a note in your planner or having a conversation with someone where you tell them how you felt at the end of the week. All of these pieces of progress along the way are essential to completing and achieving the goal or the dream or the vision that you really want. You can't get to the completion without the progress along the way. So the more you can acknowledge this progress, the more you can see the process at work, and the more wins you can accrue along the way, the more likely you are to continue to move towards your goal, and the more likely you are to achieve it and to be able to soak it up on the other side. As always, if you are having trouble doing this for yourself, I would love to help you do this as your coach. You can go to stephanielinn.com and book a call anywhere on the site. There are multiple buttons. And I would love to help you get started. It's very simple. You set up a call, we have a conversation, and then we figure out what you need to move forward. Whether that's working with me or whether you try a DIY or go with someone else, I will help you make that decision for yourself because that is what I do. I help other people find their inner resources and build the strength and the skills that they want to have, even simply in a free consultation call. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, and I will see you on next week's episode. Thanks for listening. If you're ready to take what you learned today to the next level, head over to Stephanie Linn, that's LINN.com, and book a consultation call to get started. I can't wait to see you there, my dear HSP.